Chronic stress, it's a part of life in 2022. It's also a part of midlife and was for a very long time pre-pandemic. What's a woman to do? A woman who, like you, is more susceptible to the negative effects of stress. This episode is going to answer that. My guest and good friend, Dr. Rowe, is in the house. I'm Deborah Atkinson. You're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top struggles and concerns, and I share what to eat, how to move, and how to change your mindset. Sometimes about how to eat and how to move so you can have the energy and the vitality that you want, need, and deserve in this second and better half. This episode is brought to you by the 5-Day Flip. That is 5 short videos, 5 days in a row, to convince yourself that yes, you do have time to exercise, and that perhaps if you need a reset, a restart, or you're starting from scratch, that it's not as hard as it seems, that you can do it in the comfort and convenience of your own living room. And I'm doing it right there with you. So I will put the link to that in the show notes. And I want to introduce you now to my guest, Dr. Roseann Capanna-Hodge. Kind of proud I can pronounce that without a slur. She's a mental health trailblazer. She is founder of the Global Institute of Children's Mental Health, and Dr. Roseann, who is on a mission to change the way we view and treat mental health, is showing people it's going to be okay with science-backed tools that improve well-being. She's known for teaching how to calm the brain in order to have a happy family and giving the keys to unlock the brain's potential with her trademarked method, BrainBehaviorReset. She's helped thousands address the most challenging conditions such as ADHD, executive functioning, anxiety, OCD, mood, Lyme, and PANDAS using science-backed holistic therapies. She is an author of 3 books, including her most recent book, It's Gonna Be Okay. And she is a media personality who is featured on dozens of media outlets as the go-to expert. And here right now with us, she is ours. Hello, Dr. Rowe.
Hello, my friend, Miss Deborah. So excited for this conversation. I always love to spend time with you because you are always just a ball of energy and light.
Well, back at you. We must feed off of each other.
Absolutely.
And you're going to dive into an area where, I think we talk about mental health here enough. We talk about mindset enough, but you're going to really go into neuroscience. We don't mention that word too many times on this podcast, and telling us helpfully what it is and how it can benefit us, and who listening may want to explore it deeper. Wow. So can we unpack that right away? What is neuroscience? And
Yeah. So, I'm so grateful that I'm not happy that everyone is we're in a mental health crisis of people of all ages, but I am super grateful that we're having open conversations about mental health. Yeah. And mental health is increasingly being destigmatized. And I think that's an amazing, amazing thing. And we're making a lot of strides because of this crisis that we're in, largely due to the pandemic, but it already was there before. And when we talk about mental health, we often don't empower people with the knowledge of what happens in the brain. When you're anxious, what happens in the brain when you've had trauma or you have depression or a variety of clinical conditions. And we often talk about the brain and we only talk about neurotransmitters. And the chemicals of the brain are affected by a lot of things. And we have been conditioned to believe that only medication impacts neurotransmitters. But that's just not true. And it really takes away power from people. And many things, including exercise and meditation, lifestyle, diet, these all can have a tremendous impact. And so neuroscience is the study of the brain. But when we use information about the study of the brain to inform the kind of decisions we make about how to get help. We make better choices for ourselves, and we're choosing more effective therapies. And it's often so surprising, Deborah, how effective natural lifestyle changes and therapies can be in reducing and reversing mental health symptoms.
So my question, I think, is how can someone literally measure? I mean, I can tell you I'm not staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m. with monkey mind thoughts going through my head, but is there a way to literally measure differently, as in scientifically?
Yeah. So I do a couple of things that, when somebody has a clinical issue, or sometimes people are dealing with compounded stressors and they don't like the way that it's affecting the way that they're thinking or working or in their relationships, and people come to me. So there's two things that we can do to really be very quantitative and not just say, oh, what's going on? And I do a third, which is measuring symptoms. And I find that to be really helpful. But I do something called QEEG brain maps. And then there's also lab work that we can measure neurotransmitters. We can measure inflammation. There's a lot of indicators that are scientifically correlated with mental health. And brain maps, really simply, what is it? Just for people to know, I do something called a QEEG brain map. And it's a way to statistically analyze brainwave function. And we know certain brainwave patterns are associated with certain conditions. And it really, what the brain does is it gets dysregulated. And so you could be understimulated or overstimulated, and it gives us a clear indication of where that's happening. So there is lots of objective data, ways to collect objective data. It is not the standard of care in mental health.
Wow. And why is that?
Oh, you know why. It's pharma.
Okay.
It's pharma. I don't want to oversimplify it, but people are not trained. And clients, patients, families, they often only find out about these things in a Google search, which I'm a huge fan of Google. And because it's really about empowerment and making sure you're the CEO of your physical and mental health. But we're not, not everybody is trained in QEEGs. You can get lab work pretty easily, and you can order some of these kits yourself to look at your neurotransmitters and things like that. So there are resources available. It's not the standard. The standard in mental health is talk interviews to diagnose. Where often doctors are never doing things, very rarely, let's check all your thyroid components. Let's check inflammation. Maybe your zinc is low. Maybe your vitamin D is low. Why are these things important? These are all nutrient levels and also thyroid, all associated with issues like anxiety and depression and OCD. So we're not taking that analytic approach. It's just not done. It's very, very, I always say mental health is a dinosaur. The same things I learned 30 years ago are what therapists are taught today. And we have so many more resources, and people are suffering.
Definitely people are suffering. Okay. Mm-hmm. So let's think really deeply about my audience. So women who may be in their early 40s, but primarily our listeners are 45 to 70. And of course, that puts them right in prime time for menopause, hormone roller coasters, wherever it may happen for them that they hit menopause. Then we're in the middle of a pandemic, while they're in the middle of 3 generations, pulling them, pushing them, and, distorting them in every direction. Everybody is so in focus. That's one of the things that, 2 years ago, as the pandemic started, I remember right away, the first few weeks, it was like, I can't focus. Like I was working out regularly, and now, they had no anchors in their day.
Yeah.
Everything moved. And I mean, what kind of a role does stress play in that lack of focus and the brain fog?
Yeah. Well, first of all, stress really is our greatest health crisis. Mm-hmm. And we don't understand how it works, right? Yeah. Like I say this all the time, you're better off having a Big Mac every day if you're a happy person and your stress levels are low. I'm not telling you to do that.
Please don't.
But stress stress is that toxic, right? And nobody can escape from stress. And boy, can it be a runaway train. And we are living, I'm living in the Northeast. I feel like the intensity levels around here are very high, but I feel like that's everywhere and across the globe. So stress, what does it do? And why is it so hard and so easy for it to get your body to get stuck in a stress state? Well, number one, your body knows no difference between good and bad stress. So, I was sharing with you, Deborah has some fun, exciting things going on, and I can feel it in my system, right?
Yeah.
So I've got to counter that, right? Tonight, I'm probably going to go and take a nice bath, right? Make sure I, use some lavender in there.
Lock
I'm going
the
to counter
door.
that. Yeah, exactly. Right. I'll probably do a little PMF too, because I love PMF. And so good and bad stress can come into the system, and it doesn't have to be a single significant event. So often, people will say to me, I don't even know what I'm stressed. I have a nice job. I like my family. And it's like, hold on. But you had all these little things. And what did you do to kind of reset your nervous system? You just kept pushing. Right. And this is where we're at, and especially as a woman who's like right in the perimenopausal age in her early 50s. This is so easy for your sleep to get a little off, for, you to cut back on that exercise you talked about, and your nervous system to get dysregulated. And once you're in a stress state, right, your autonomic nervous system moves from a more relaxed parasympathetic state to a more activated sympathetic dominant state, which is supposed to react to things, go from relaxed to stressed, in order for all your resources in your body, attention systems, your brain, hormones, immune system, all go to say, what is that? There must be something. And then it goes back down if it's regulated. But now we're stuck in the stress state. And when your body moves towards a fight, flight, or freeze, maybe you are in fight, flight, or freeze, or maybe you're just under that and you're activated. You're not going to be able to focus in the same way. Your thinking you're not going to be in control of your thinking and your executive functioning, and taking intentful action is going to be a lot harder. And that is what happened in that pandemic, that all of a sudden you talked about that anchor of the exercise. I mean, routines are powerful, right?
Right.
Don't you? And exercise in itself is very dramatic. Do you know that research studies, Deborah, you'll love this, show that just doing 30 minutes of moderate exercise a week, 3 times a week, reduces ADHD symptoms by 40%.
Yeah. Wow. That is awesome.
How awesome is that, right? So we lose that. People lost that. And then there's too much time on their devices. And, also everybody was home, and everybody's like, you don't even have a moment to not get a notification. I had to turn off all my notifications on my phone. Too distracting.
Yep.
And the hum of anxiety and stress of everybody around you, I think, was pretty toxic, right? And then we weren't getting socialization, which we crave, and releases all these amazing endorphins. So it was sort of the perfect storm. And I really, truly, Deborah, didn't meet anybody who didn't say, like, holy cow, I'm having a hard time being focused. I'm having a hard time getting motivated to do my exercise or eat healthy or whatever, do their work. And it was really sort of just where people were at. And I think now people are not understanding, even if they put their routines back, why can't they get their attention back? And it's because they're not really addressing some of those stress components.
Wow. Okay. Good to know, because that, I think, mic drop for people.
Yeah.
That the Band-Aid, maybe way they used to do it, isn't going to work, because this was a gash.
Yeah. And we're still in flux.
True.
Life is not the same. And, it was really interesting. I mean, there are people that, I have a friend of mine that has autoimmune disease, and really had to be very careful to not get COVID. And, she was so away from people for really, truly 18 months. And what a lovely human being this is. But I was like, girl, you got to work on your resocialization. Like, I could physically see her getting nervous around people and, and all these things. And I was like, we got to work on chilling you out, because you're literally just feeding that anxiety, right? Not saying there's not a reality to it, but it's like, what can you do to support your stress levels, and she was like, thank you for saying that. And I felt so anxious, and it was just getting worse,
Yeah.
And so doing the same thing over and over
Yep.
without the result you want
Crazy
is the definition of insanity.
So true.
And yet in mental health, that's kind of the standard of care.
Ooh.
It's like, okay, we're going to try you on an 8th medication, right? But really, where are the conversations about your lifestyle?
True.
Where are the conversations about what are the healthy ways that you could flip from your frustration behaviors to actually something that makes you have an immediate feeling of feeling better? Things like breath work, or, walking with your neighbor, or, prayer. Every day, Deborah, not first thing, but in the first hour of every day, I light certain candles. I light little special candles, and I do about, just a couple minutes of some prayer. And it's such an awesome part of my day. And it's such a grounder and makes me kind of, pulls my stress levels down. It gives me intent. And it helps me to connect with myself, and any negative thoughts I really try to work on in those few minutes every morning. Simple,
self-made anchor, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a spaz, me, I'm super excitable, and I have to anchor myself 15 or 20 times a day.
Thank you so much. Let me ask you this question, and this maybe is a short answer, no, and not true, but there is true of many of the women who are listeners in regard to exercise. I'm wondering if there's an analogy, or if this is similar with our mental, emotional kinds of health, that women think they know what they should do and they're just not doing it. But I challenge that, because the science has changed so much, and they never got the science back when they were learning their exercise to-dos, that their hormones have changed. They should be doing something entirely different. So they're guilting themselves over not doing what they actually shouldn't be doing. Does this make sense? Is there?
Sure, because, it's like anything else. I mean, this is we are evolving human beings, and our bodies and our hormones evolve too. And so they get so frustrated with that used to work, and why isn't it working now? And then there's so much shame behind it, because maybe they gain weight, or not even that. Maybe they just feel icky, and so it's like, okay, we have to be fluid, and we have to be able to adjust on the fly, and, getting the right information, whether it's exercise or diet or mental health, and having a deeper understanding, I feel, is just one of the most empowering things in all aspects of health. And I know that when I work with people, most people I work with, and I work with people all over the world remotely, they're just so upset, frustrated, ashamed that what they were doing for themselves or their child, they're stuck. And they're like, but I'm smart, and I'm this, and I tried this, and I followed that. But they didn't have an understanding. And once they have an understanding, it really guides what you're doing. And I think that's so important.
Yeah. So I want to ask something specific that you talk about, reps, and we're not talking sets and reps here.
Yeah.
So just a minute, we have to clarify. So REPS, the protocol in managing stress. Can you share, first of all, of course, what that is and stands for, and how listeners can reduce their stress? Because the bottom line, that's what we want to do.
And everybody, you have to power down to power up. So, we're a lot of doers. We're women here. Okay. We're doers. We get stuff done. Part of why we hate any of this menopause stuff is it's sort of we're like, oh, a lot of women talk about cognitive decline. It doesn't have to be that way. It's like, I recognize something. But, in the pandemic, I talked a lot about reentry panic syndrome, and I coined that term. And so I wanted to I'm always about solutions, right? So we can talk about what it is, but we got to focus on solutions, and we have to move our behaviors to change. And so it's just a lot easier when you know what you're doing and you get that guidance. And REPS is really simple. It's a way to remind yourself. It's an acronym for calming that nervous system down. And R stands for respirate, E stands for envision, P is for positivity, and S is stress management. And, you hear breath work, you hear about breath work. And, when I say I have to ground myself 15 or 20 times a day, I do that in a lot of ways, but probably 10 times a day. It is very intentful breathing, and it's diaphragmatic breathing. And why is that important? It is the quickest way neurologically to calm your nervous system down. It's free and it works. And we need to have tools that are very accessible. And that's what breath work is. And I'm a big fan. I think there's all kinds of belly breathing, and it's really about getting air into your belly and then having a really long exhale is the key to calm that nervous system down in the parasympathetic state. And I do a 4-7-8 breath. You can do whatever you want, but it's in for 4, hold for 7, and that little bit of a longer exhalation at 8. And you want to do that at least 3 times in a row, minimum 3 times a day. And it's a reset to the nervous system. So that's breathing. And then envision is, seeing the positive. We are negative thinkers, and we're like, I'm going to do this exercise and it's not going to work, right? No, you're going to see it. You're going to do P, positive talk around it. I see myself, losing an inch off my belly. And, it's going to happen, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do these exercises every day and whatever it is. And then that S is really having that consistent routine. Are you spending 10 minutes a day? So the science says you need at least 10 minutes a day to keep your nervous system calm and regulated and working optimally so you can focus. Right? You can reduce your anxiety, whatever's going on with you. That's what it does when you put that attention to it. And, as busy as we are as mothers and grandparents, whatever you are, you can get 10 minutes.
I love that. Okay. So this is for reentry panic syndrome, this is your 4-step solution.
And it's not just I teach this to corporations. REPS is about, what are the 4 steps you need to do to regulate your nervous system? And that's that, breath work, envision, positivity, and the 10 minutes a day of stress management.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So 4 steps to regulate your nervous system. We've got them. We'll have them in the show notes, everybody. I want to address our listeners who may have a clinical issue like anxiety, OCD, or depression. Probably of those, anxiety and depression are a little bit more common here. What do you wish that they knew? I'm guessing there's some secrets here for you to unpack that they don't, that could improve their mental health.
Well, I think the biggest thing I wish that everybody knew is that I want them to have hope, and I want them to see the possibility of change. And I think that people, when they struggle, and, most people take years to find something that's helpful for them, I don't want them to give up. And the key to mental health is regulating the brain, calming the brain, right? And, my tagline is calm brain, happy families, because when your nervous system isn't regulated, it's really hard to feel joy and be happy. And there is so much anybody can do to just a whole beautiful list of science-backed solutions that calm the nervous system, like that breath work, like the tool, like the REPS protocol, things like neurofeedback and biofeedback and dietary, improving sleep. These are all scientifically proven ways to regulate the nervous system. And when you regulate the nervous system, you reduce clinical anxiety, clinical depression, clinical OCD, and other conditions. And I think people just, these aren't conversations. This is not in the awareness of people. And that's why I do these things. And I'm grateful for this opportunity, because people can create that change for themselves. It doesn't mean you don't still need psychotherapy or other things, but until you calm things down, I have this little thing in my office that says, calm the heck down, and it's your nervous system. They don't realize the power that they have within themselves to change their own mental health.
That is so good. And I think that is probably one of the biggest challenges that I have even dealing with private clients, is that is what gets in the way. There's the desire, they want it,
Yeah.
they reach out for help, huge strength. And yet in following through, it is the anxiety or the depression that gets in the way of them doing what they know they do want to do. So powerful to have another tool to support that and help. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, mindset and belief around it, is so much, it's the first part we work with people when in our program is that, and that visualization component. I mean, visualization is pretty powerful, and your brain's going to believe anything you tell it. So you've got to tell it good things.
Yeah, totally. I love it. You are the placebo, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to ask you this question, and I know you have gold here, so I probably could keep you here all day, but is there a question that I should have asked you? Well, we've got you. Women, girlfriends, 45 to 70, what do they really need to hear in this moment in time we're in right now?
Yeah, I would say that I'd say the question you didn't ask me is, what are the signs that people often miss that they have anxiety or depression or should be worried about their mental health, right? And I think regardless of the age, so if it's a little kid or it's somebody who's 40 or it's somebody who's 80, stress and mental health shows up for most people physically. And so people will ignore those signs like I'm chronically fatigued or I can't sleep, right? And it doesn't matter what the clinical condition is. My work is about, are you showing, do you have an understimulated and overstimulated brain, and what kind of understimulated and overstimulated behaviors you have, right? We all get hung up in the diagnosis name. And so, are you of gastrointestinal symptoms, right? So, big reason why people have gastrointestinal symptoms is because of the vagus nerve and the connection between the brain and the gut. And there's a lot of activity that goes on there. That's a whole other topic. But what are you showing physically, and why are you ignoring it? And, what small thing, one thing people could do in their lives to create a shift. And, a lot of times people come to me, Deborah, they're in crisis. And that's okay. But I wish more people were doing things earlier. And I think they don't realize how much their body is going to take, let you know it's stressed, it's anxious, it's depressed. And you can try to be very functional and you can try to ignore it. But you've got to tend to your garden. You've got to get in there and do that work, because it's going to show up in autoimmune problems or some other really bigger physical way. And it's not as hard as you think. We make mental health like a big hill. And it's really a lot about those daily things that you do, and especially what you say to yourself. And I just think our generation of women and this that are listening, we're rough on ourselves, and we are working so flippin' hard for our families, in our work, for ourselves, but we're not really taking care of ourselves. And so we say self-care, but what I really mean is caring, calming that brain and caring for your brain so you can be the best self and feel good, physically good and mentally good, because nothing in life is going to, work the way that you want it to if you're not taking care of that good old brain.
So rich. So grateful for having you here, especially at this, I think, pivotal time again, right? We're still in it. I think we'd all love to say we're post-pandemic and we're still mid.
We're not, right?
Yeah.
No, and we don't know the tangles, right? And I think, again, I started this out as I'm grateful people are having conversations about mental health, but my conversations are about what can people do about it? And you just got to start with one thing. Maybe it's before you get out of bed, you're doing that reps protocol. Maybe it's you're praying. Maybe you're doing stretches in your bed that are designed to calm the nervous system. But you have to do it and you have to be consistent about it. You're not going to magic isn't going to happen. There's no magical thinking and wishful, like, oh, I wish I could lose 10 pounds, but I'm going to sit on the couch, So don't beat yourself up about it. Take small action.
Love it. All right. Where is the best place for listeners to get more Dr. Rowe?
Yeah. Well, you can go to www.drroseann.com and you can find me as Dr. Roseann, DrRoseann, just about everywhere. So Instagram, if you want to follow me, and you name a social platform, I'm there, and that's what I'm at.
Love it. I want to plug something else that you've got because I think everybody's like, oh yeah, please, like give me a quick fix, which maybe this is, maybe it's not, but you've got a tool that is 100 ways to learn how to manage chronic stress.
Yeah.
Say a little more about that.
Yeah. So what happens is we lack coping skills, right? And I have this great document, something that, this has been 30 years of mental health and probably took me about a dozen years where I have coping statements that you say to yourself or you say to child or somebody else in your life. And we know that coping skills is the key to mental health. So I have over 100 of them and you can get them for free at teletherapytoolkitbonus.com.
Thank you so much. So good to talk to you always. And thanks for hitting on this so important topic.
Well, thanks for this conversation. And, as I always say, it's going to be okay. And just take one step. If you're overwhelmed, one micro step and you need to celebrate it can really make a difference.
Beautiful. I love that. Those are the words that I crave actually for a long time, not now, so I can give it away. That was my password for everything. It's going to be okay. It's like during the pandemic, I was like, oh my God, yeah, it's got to be this. So it is no longer. So you're not going to get in my bank account, by the way, if you try that.
I'm so sorry. That came from Sam Horn, right?
I did not.
So it's the first thing I say to everybody when they come to me. And she said, oh my God, that's the name of your book. I trademarked it. I own the trademark for It's Going to Be Okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, listeners, it is going to be okay. But now it's up to you. If there was a question that you wish I would have asked Dr. Rowe, you can put that below the show notes at flipping50.com/chronic stress. Although you would know right now that I am so wishing I could have put It's Going to Be Okay. It's just too late. But I love to hear from you. So your questions, your comments, if this was helpful, I read each and every one of those. And so let us know how you're being helped by this one in particular. And all of the contact information for Dr. Rowe will be there as well. What are you waiting for? Let's start flipping 50 today.